My husband stood on the porch of my lake house with his mistress beside him and told me, "You're not welcome here anymore." Not in his house, not in a hotel, not even in a place we had bought together. He said it at the front door of the lake house my grandmother left to me, while holding a glass of wine from my kitchen, wearing the linen shirt I had bought him for our anniversary, and standing under the porch light my father installed before he died. My name is Naomi Bennett Cole. That was my name then. And for 12 years I had been married to Adrian Cole, a man who somehow convinced himself that if he stood inside a woman's peace long enough, it became his property. Behind him, Cassandra Vale leaned against the porch railing with her arms folded and a soft smile on her face. She looked expensive. Not loud expensive, quiet expensive. The kind of woman who wore simple clothes that cost more than my first car. She had one hand resting on Adrian's arm, like she was gently claiming him and everything around him, including my house. Inside, I could hear laughter. His friends, some business partners, his mother, Patricia, a few cousins, people I had not invited, people eating food from my pantry, sitting on my furniture, drinking from my glasses, walking through rooms filled with my grandmother's quilts, my father's fishing photos, my mother's old recipe cards, and my memories. I had driven 3 hours from the city because my neighbor, Mr. Alvarez, called me at work and said, "Naomi, I don't want to make trouble, but there are people at your lake house." I thought maybe Adrian had gone there to rest. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe he forgot to tell me. That is the kind of foolish mercy marriage teaches you before betrayal finishes its work. So I drove there. No warning. No call. Just a strange feeling in my stomach, and my keys shaking in the cup holder as I turned onto the old gravel road. When I pulled up, the driveway was full. Luxury cars. Adrian's black SUV. Cassandra's white convertible. A catering van. Music came from the back deck. Lanterns were strung along the dock. Someone had moved my grandmother's rocking chair from the porch and placed a tall cocktail table in its spot. That was the first thing that made me angry. Not Cassandra, not the cars, the chair, Grandma Ruth's chair, the one she sat in every summer evening, snapping green beans into a bowl and telling me, "Naomi, water remembers everything. Be careful what you bring to it." They had moved it like junk. I walked up the steps and opened the front door with my key. The room went quiet for about 3 seconds. Then Adrian came from the kitchen, holding a glass, smiling like a man caught but not afraid. "Naomi," he said, "you should have called first." I looked past him at the people in my living room. "What is going on?" Patricia stood near the fireplace, wearing pearls and an expression of fake concern. "Oh, Naomi," she said. "This is awkward. Awkward. As if I had walked into the wrong restaurant." Cassandra came behind Adrian and touched his shoulder. He did not move away. That told me everything I had been trying not to know for months. The late nights. The phone turned upside down. The sudden gym routine. The new cologne. The business trips. The way he said Cassandra understands strategy, with too much warmth in his voice. I looked at him. "Who invited these people to my house?" His jaw tightened. "Don't start. My house, Adrian." He smiled like I had said something childish. "Naomi, let's not do this in front of everyone." Cassandra spoke gently. "Maybe this isn't the best time." I turned to her. "You are standing in my grandmother's lake house." Her smile thinned. Adrian stepped between us. Enough. There it was. The word men use when they want a woman's pain to become quiet before it becomes evidence. He took my arm and guided me back onto the porch. I pulled away. "Don't touch me." His face hardened. "Naomi, you need to calm down." I pointed toward the living room. "You brought your mistress, your mother, and your business friends into my lake house without asking me." Cassandra looked offended at the word mistress. "Good. Words should fit." Adrian lowered his voice. "This is a private investor retreat." I almost laughed. "A retreat?" "Yes." "In my house?" Our house. No, my house. His eyes flashed. We are married, and the deed is mine. That was when his mask slipped, only for a second. But I saw it. He was not confused. He knew. He knew exactly whose house it was. He had simply hoped that saying "our" loudly enough would make the truth embarrassed. Cassandra touched his arm again. Adrian, maybe she should leave before guests get uncomfortable. Guests. In my house. Something inside me became very still. Adrian looked at me and said, "You heard her. You're not welcome here anymore." The sentence landed slowly, like a stone sinking through water. You're not welcome here anymore. I looked at him, then at Cassandra, then through the window at Patricia, pretending not to listen. Then at the people standing near my grandmother's fireplace with wine glasses in their hands. My first feeling was pain, deep, old, humiliating, the kind that makes your throat close. My second feeling was anger. Clean, bright, useful. I reached into my bag and pulled out my phone. Adrian frowned. What are you doing? I called the lake house security company. Hello, I said when the dispatcher answered. This is Naomi Bennett, owner of 17 Willow Lake Road. I need all temporary access codes revoked immediately. Adrian's face changed. Naomi. I kept speaking. Yes, all of them. Gate, front door, garage, dock house. Also disable guest access under Adrian Cole. Cassandra stood straight. Patricia appeared at the doorway. What is she doing? She asked. I looked at Adrian while I spoke into the phone. And please send a patrol unit to remove unauthorized guests from the property. Adrian stepped toward me. You're being ridiculous. I held up one hand. Do not come closer. His friends were watching now. Everyone was watching. The dispatcher asked a question. I answered clearly. Yes, I am on site. Yes, I have identification. No, Adrian Cole is not an owner. Adrian's face flushed. You're embarrassing me. No, I said. You did that when you told the owner to leave. Before I continue, tell me where you are watching from tonight, and if someone has ever stood inside something you built and tried to make you feel like the stranger, stay with this story. Because sometimes the moment they say you are not welcome is the moment you finally remember where the keys came from. The lake house was never just a house. That is what Adrian never understood. To him, it was a property, a weekend place, a view, a backdrop for photos, a place to impress investors who liked quiet water and expensive wine. To me, it was memory with walls. My grandmother Ruth bought it long before anyone in our family had real money. It was smaller then, rougher. A little old wooden house with peeling blue shutters, a narrow porch, and a dock that creaked if you stepped too close to the left side. She was not rich. She cleaned offices at night and cooked for church events on weekends. She saved for years because she wanted one place where nobody could tell her to move. That was how she described it. One place, she told me when I was 9, where a woman can hear herself think. I spent summers there as a child, fishing with my father, making cornbread with Grandma Ruth, learning to swim in water cold enough to steal your breath, sleeping under quilts that smelled like cedar, watching storms roll over the lake while Grandma sat in her rocking chair and told stories about women who survived by keeping one key no one else could copy. When my father died, the lake house became the place where I cried without explaining myself. When I graduated college, Grandma hung a paper banner across the porch. When I started my business, I wrote the first plan at the kitchen table while she made tea. When she got sick, I took her there one last time. She sat in the rocking chair with a blanket over her knees, looking at the water. Naomi, she said, promise me something. Anything. Don't let people turn your peace into their convenience. I promised. I meant it. Then life happened. Grandma Ruth passed the following spring. In her will, she left the lake house to me. Only me. Not my parents. Not my brother. Not the family. Me. There was a letter with it. I still remember every line. My Naomi, This house goes to you because you know how to love a place without trying to own every person inside it. Keep the water clean, keep the porch honest, and keep a key for yourself, even if you marry a man with a loud voice." I laughed when I first read that. Later, I understood. By then, I had already married Adrian. He seemed different in the beginning. They always do in stories like this. He was charming, ambitious, handsome, and hungry for a future bigger than the one he had come from. I understood hunger. I had my own. I had built Bennett ClearPath Solutions from nothing. He was building Cole Medical Logistics. We met at a healthcare conference, where he spilled coffee on my folder, and then spent 20 minutes apologizing so well that I forgot to be annoyed. He listened to me like my words had weight. He asked about my work. He admired my discipline. He told me, "Naomi, you make complicated things feel possible." That kind of praise can be dangerous when you grew up being valued mostly for what you could fix. We married after 2 years. At first, I loved sharing the lake house with him. I showed him the dock, the pantry, the old photos, the mark on the kitchen door where Grandma measured my height every summer, the loose floorboard in the hallway, the cedar chest with quilts, the rocking chair. He seemed moved. "This place is special," he said. "It is. We'll take good care of it." We. That little word felt sweet then. Later, it became a warning. For the first few years, Adrian respected the house. Mostly. He asked before inviting friends, helped repair the dock, carried firewood, made coffee in the mornings. We spent quiet weekends there when the city was too loud. Sometimes, I thought our marriage was strongest at the lake. No business pressure, no social performance, just water, trees, coffee, and the sound of him breathing beside me. Then his company grew, and with growth came image. Image changed him more than money did. He started thinking every room should serve his rise. Our city home became a place to host partners. My office became too intense. My caution became negative energy. My questions became doubt. At the lake house, he began inviting people without asking. Small at first. 2 colleagues. Then investors. Then Patricia. Then friends of friends. One weekend, I arrived to find 3 men in the kitchen discussing distribution expansion while one of them used Grandma's cutting board as a cheese tray. I pulled Adrian aside. "You didn't tell me people were coming." He smiled. "Baby, it was last minute. This is not a hotel. They're important. So is asking me." His smile faded. "You're making this small. No, you are making my house public." He kissed my forehead. The old trick. "Don't be territorial. Territorial. About my grandmother's house." I should have seen it then. Territorial is what people call you when they want access without respect. His mother made it worse. Patricia had always treated my family things as less valuable than his ambitions. When she first saw the lake house, she said quaint, not beautiful, not meaningful, quaint. Then, after Adrian's company grew, she began calling it the family retreat. I corrected her once. "It's Grandma Ruth's lake house." She smiled. "Of course, dear, but you and Adrian are family now." That was how erasure often arrived. Softly, with dear at the end. Cassandra came into our lives through Adrian's business. She was an investor relations consultant from a wealthy family, sharp, elegant, and skilled at making ambition feel like destiny. Adrian admired her immediately. Too much. He said she understood growth. He said she had access to rooms we needed. Again, I met her at a dinner. She shook my hand and said, "Adrian speaks highly of your support." Support. I smiled. "He speaks highly of my support because he likes living." She laughed politely, but her eyes measured me. That was the first time I felt the shift clearly. Cassandra did not see me as a wife. She saw me as existing furniture in Adrian's current life, something that would either match the new design or be removed. The affair did not reveal itself all at once. It rarely does. It came in fragments, Late texts, new passwords, business trips extended by 1 day, Patricia mentioning Cassandra too warmly, Adrian suddenly caring about designer resorts, a receipt from a boutique hotel near the lake. Then, one evening, I found a photo online, not posted by Adrian, by Cassandra. A wine glass, a lake sunset, the corner of my dock visible in the background. Caption: some places feel like the future. My hands went cold. I confronted Adrian that night. He said I was imagining things. Then he said Cassandra had been at a group retreat. Then he said I was embarrassing him by checking social media. Then he said, "This is why I can't share things with you. Not sorry, not explanation. Reversal. Make the injured person feel guilty for finding the wound." I called Grace. Grace was my best friend and CFO, a woman who believed evidence was a love language when betrayal entered the room. "Do not confront again without documentation," she said. He brought her to the lake house. "I know." "That's Grandma Ruth's house." "I know." "Naomi." Her voice softened. "What?" "Do not let him rewrite ownership while you're busy proving pain." That sentence stayed. I called Vivian Hart the next morning. Vivian was my attorney. She had handled my business contracts, my estate documents, and once, a family matter involving my brother Marcus that ended with him saying, "Vivian is too aggressive," which became her favorite compliment. I told her what happened. She said, "Send me the deed, security access list, insurance documents, and any communications where he calls it ours." Why? Because men like Adrian often confuse repeated access with legal reality. I prefer to correct that early. We reviewed everything. The lake house was mine. Clear deed. Inherited property. Separate asset. No marital conversion. No joint title. No mortgage in his name. No improvements paid primarily by joint accounts that could create messy claims. Why? Because Grandma Ruth's letter had scared me enough years earlier to ask Vivian to protect it properly. Keep a key for yourself. I had. Still, I hesitated to act. Marriage makes fools of intelligent women when the heart keeps begging the facts to change. Then Mr. Alvarez called me that Friday. "Naomi," he said, "there are cars at the house." Mr. Alvarez lived 2 properties down from the lake house. He had been my grandmother's friend and still called the lake our old mirror. He was not nosy. If he called, something was wrong. "What kind of cars?" "Expensive. Catering van too." My chest tightened. "Is Adrian there?" "Yes." "Anyone else?" A pause. "That woman from the photo." I closed my eyes. "Thank you. Do you want me to go over?" "No, I'm coming." "Drive carefully." I left the city before I could talk myself out of it. And that brought me to the porch. To Adrian's sentence. "You're not welcome here anymore." To Cassandra's smile. To the security call. To the moment everything changed. The patrol unit arrived within 20 minutes. Not police exactly. Private lake security first, then county officers because the situation involved property access, guests, and a possible trespass complaint. Adrian tried to laugh it off. He walked down the porch steps with both hands raised like a reasonable man surrounded by unreasonable women. "Officers, this is a misunderstanding between spouses." I stood near the front door. Vivian was on video call in my hand. She had told me not to say too much without her listening. The lead officer, a calm woman named Officer Daniels, looked from Adrian to me. "Who owns the property?" "I do," I said. Adrian spoke over me. "We are married." Officer Daniels looked at him. That was not my question. I handed over my ID and pulled up the deed documents Vivian had sent. Officer Daniels reviewed them. Then looked back at Adrian. "Sir, are you listed as owner?" Adrian's face tightened. "This is a marital property matter." Vivian's voice came through my phone. "It is not. Naomi Bennett inherited the property before the relevant disputed usage, and title is solely in her name." Officer Daniels looked at the phone. "And you are?" "Vivian Hart, Ms. Bennett's attorney." Adrian muttered something under his breath. Cassandra stood behind him with her arms folded, but her confidence had dimmed. Patricia came outside wearing a shawl and outrage. "This is shameful," she said. "Calling security on your own husband." I looked at her. "He told me I was not welcome in my own house." Patricia blinked, then looked at Adrian. For 1 second, she looked surprised. Not because he said it, maybe. Because he said it where witnesses could repeat it. Officer Daniels said, "Ms. Bennett, are you asking these guests to leave?" "Yes." Adrian turned. "Naomi, don't do this." I looked at him. "You already did." Cassandra stepped forward. "Naomi, think about how this looks." I looked at her. "It looks like a woman removing uninvited guests from her lake house." Her mouth tightened. The investors began gathering their bags. Nothing kills rich people's confidence faster than being asked to leave by someone wearing a badge. One man approached Adrian. "Cole, you said this property was available for the retreat." Adrian forced a smile. "It is. This is temporary." "No," I said. "It is not." The man looked at me. I continued. "This property is not available for your retreat, your investment meeting, or any business tied to Adrian Cole." The man's face changed. He looked at Adrian again. "You said the house was part of your family asset network." Family asset network. My body went cold. Vivian's voice sharpened through the phone. "Naomi, ask him to repeat that." I looked at the man. What did he call it? The man hesitated, then said, "A family asset network." Vivian said, "Thank you, sir. Please preserve any written materials using that phrase." Adrian snapped, "This is insane." Grace arrived then. I did not know she had driven after me until her car pulled in behind the security vehicle. She stepped out wearing a blazer over jeans, carrying her laptop bag like a weapon. She looked at the porch, then at Adrian, then at Cassandra, then at me. "You okay?" "No?" "Good answer." She stood beside me. Adrian glared at her. "Of course you're here." Grace smiled. "I never miss a property-based confession." Patricia hissed, "This is not your business." Grace looked at her. "Patricia, your son used Naomi's inherited house for a secret investor retreat with his mistress and then told her she was not welcome. It is now everyone's business, including possibly the county's." The guests left slowly, some embarrassed, some annoyed, some whispering. The caterers packed up. The music stopped. The lanterns stayed swaying in the wind, like decorations at a funeral. Cassandra tried to leave quietly, but I stopped her near the steps. "You will not come back here." She looked at me. "Naomi, no. You will not come back here. You will not post photos of my dock. You will not call this place your future. You will not stand in my grandmother's house and advise me on appearances." For once, she had no polished answer. She nodded once and left. Adrian was the last to go. He stood near his SUV, face red with anger. "You're going to regret humiliating me." I looked at him. "You humiliated yourself when you mistook access for ownership." He laughed bitterly. "You think a deed makes you powerful?" "No," I said. "A deed makes me accurate." Officer Daniels almost smiled. Adrian drove away. Patricia followed him. And then the lake house became quiet again. But not peaceful. Not yet. The house was a mess. Wine glasses everywhere. Food trays. Furniture moved. Grandma Ruth's rocking chair shoved near the side wall. A stain on one of her old table runners. Wet footprints near the hallway. A vase broken in the bathroom. Cassandra's perfume in the guest room. I stood in the living room and finally broke. Not gently. I sobbed. Grace held me. Vivian stayed on the phone, silent now, giving me dignity and grief. Mr. Alvarez came over with his wife, Maria, carrying trash bags and soup, because old neighbors know that disaster needs both. Maria hugged me and said, "Your grandmother would be proud you locked them out." That made me cry harder. For 2 hours we cleaned. Not because the caterers could not have done it, because I needed my hands to touch the house again. I needed to put the chair back. Wash the glasses. Open windows. Clear the smell. Remove the evidence that people had laughed inside my memory while I was meant to be absent. At midnight, I sat in Grandma's rocking chair on the porch. Grace sat on the steps. The lake was dark. Vivian had finally hung up after giving me a list of instructions. Change all locks. Send preservation letters. Document damage. Inventory missing items. Suspend Adrian's access. Prepare separation filing. Review business materials using the property. Check for unauthorized claims. Do not speak to Adrian alone. The usual Vivian storm kit. Grace looked at the water. You still love this place? I nodded. Yes. Good. Then don't let him ruin it. I don't know how. Start by keeping the lock changed. The next morning, Vivian arrived in person. That alone meant war. She walked through the house, took notes, photographed damage, reviewed security footage, and asked Mr. Alvarez for a statement. Then she found the investor materials. Adrian had left a folder in the study. My study. Inside were printed schedules for the retreat. On the first page, Cole Medical Logistics Private Strategy Weekend, Willow Lake Family House. Family house. There were photos of the dock, the deck, the kitchen, the guest rooms, a section called Future Leadership Retreat Concept, another called Family Asset Network Hospitality Use. Grace read the documents and whispered, "He was turning your house into a business asset." Vivian said, "Attempting to. Poorly." There were projected expenses, potential tax treatment notes, a mention of informal spousal consent. I stared at that phrase. Informal spousal consent? Vivian's face hardened. That means he planned to say you were fine with it because you are his wife and did not object in writing. But I didn't know exactly why we object in writing now. By noon, Vivian had sent notices to Adrian, his lawyer, his company, his investors, the event planner, Cassandra's firm. Anyone who had received materials implying the lake house was available for business use. The message was simple. The property belonged solely to Naomi Bennett. No authorization existed for business use, retreat use, investor marketing, hospitality planning, or future asset network inclusion. All materials must be corrected. All photos removed. All claims preserved for review. Adrian called me 16 times. I did not answer. He texted, "You're destroying my company." Then, this was one weekend. Then, you are overreacting because of Cassandra. Then, we need to talk like adults. Then, you can't just lock your husband out. Vivian helped me reply once. Do not return to Willow Lake. All communication through counsel. He replied, "You sound like Vivian." Grace said, "Highest compliment." The separation filing happened a week later. I had delayed for months, maybe years emotionally. But after the lake house, delay felt like betrayal of myself. Adrian contested everything. Of course. He claimed the lake house had become marital in use. Vivian produced the deed, inheritance records, maintenance payments from my separate account, Grandma Ruth's will, and Adrian's own messages asking permission for earlier visits. Permission, a beautiful word in court. He claimed the retreat was a misunderstanding. Vivian produced investor materials. He claimed Cassandra was only a business associate. Grace produced the photo trail. Not in a cruel way, in an accurate way. The affair became undeniable. Patricia blamed me for making things public. I told her, through Vivian, that people who want privacy should avoid hosting mistresses in stolen settings. That sentence made Grace cheer. The divorce became ugly but clear. The lake house remained mine. The city house was negotiated. Business interests were divided according to law and documents. Adrian's investors became nervous after discovering he had misrepresented access to a property he did not own. Cassandra stepped back from his company. Not because she suddenly respected me, because wealthy people understand risk when documents start moving. Adrian's company lost a major partnership that had been expected to close after the retreat. He blamed me, but the truth was simple. People who lie about small ownership often lie about bigger numbers. Investors know that. 1 month after the lockout, Adrian came to the lake house. Despite the notice, I was not there. Mr. Alvarez called security. Adrian stood at the gate shouting into the intercom. Security footage caught everything. "This is my wife's property," he said. The guard replied, "You are not authorized. I built this life with her. You are not authorized. I have clothes inside. Your attorney may arrange pickup." That line became Grace's favorite. When Adrian finally left, he kicked the gate. Bad idea. Damage documented. Vivian added it to the file. Months passed. Slow ones. Painful ones. I spent more time at the lake house than in the city. At first, every room hurt. The porch remembered his sentence. The kitchen remembered strangers. The guest room remembered Cassandra's perfume. The dock remembered her caption. So I reclaimed things one by one. New locks. New linens. Fresh paint in the guest room. Professional cleaning. The table runner repaired. The rocking chair polished. Photos rehung. The study reorganized. I removed every item Adrian had ever brought there. Mugs. Jackets. Books he never read. A fishing rod he bought for show. Gone. Not thrown into the lake, though Grace suggested it. Donated. Discarded. Released. One weekend, I invited only the people who had protected the house. Grace. Vivian. Brianna, my younger sister. Mr. Alvarez and Maria. Aunt Linda. We cooked. Laughed. Sat by the water. No investors. No performance. No one moved Grandma's chair. Brianna stood on the dock with me at sunset. He really told you that you weren't welcome? Yes. In this house? Yes. She shook her head. Men are brave when they don't read deeds. I laughed, then cried. She held my hand. You're welcome here, she said. I know. Say it. I'm welcome here. Again. I'm welcome here. The lake was quiet. Water remembers everything. Maybe that day it learned a new sentence. Adrian's apology came too late to change anything. He requested a meeting through attorneys. Vivian advised against it. Grace threatened to attend wearing a shirt that said, Deeded owner. But I agreed to one meeting at Vivian's office. Public enough. Safe enough. Adrian looked different when he walked in. Less polished. Less bright. Like a man who had discovered charm does not work on locked gates. He sat across from me. For once, he did not begin with anger. I'm sorry, he said. I waited. For what specifically? Vivian asked before I could. I almost smiled. Adrian swallowed. For bringing people to the lake house without asking. For bringing Cassandra there. For using it in business materials. For telling you that you were not welcome. His voice broke slightly on that last one. Good. It should. I looked at him. Why did you say it? He rubbed his hands together. Because I wanted to believe it. That answer surprised me. He continued. If you weren't welcome, then I didn't have to feel like a guest. If I made you the outsider, I didn't have to admit I was standing in something that was never mine. My throat tightened. That was the truth. Ugly and useful. You tried to erase me from my own inheritance, I said. Yes. And from your life. He looked down. Yes. Did you love her? Cassandra. He paused. I loved how I felt beside her. That was honest too. Not noble, but honest. She made me feel like the man I kept pretending to be. And I reminded you who helped you become him. He closed his eyes. Yes. Silence sat between us. Then he said, Can we ever repair this? No. He flinched, but I continued. We can end it honestly. That is the repair available. He nodded slowly. I understand. Maybe he did. Maybe he only understood that the gate was closed forever. Either way, I was done. The divorce finalized the following spring. I returned to my maiden name, Naomi Bennett. No Cole, no shared story, no man standing on my porch telling me where I belonged. At the final hearing, the judge confirmed the lake house remained my separate property. Vivian placed one hand on my shoulder under the table. I cried quietly, not because I had won a house, because I had kept a promise, Grandma Ruth's promise. Keep a key for yourself. That summer, I started the Ruth House retreat. Not a business retreat, not an investor retreat, a healing retreat for women rebuilding after betrayal, divorce, family pressure, financial manipulation, or emotional erasure. Small groups, no cameras, no luxury performance, just lake mornings, legal workshops, financial education, storytelling, rest, and quiet. Vivian taught a session called The Deed is Not a Feeling. Grace taught Access is not ownership. Brianna taught When love makes you doubt your own door. Maria cooked. Mr. Alvarez maintained the dock and acted embarrassed whenever anyone called him part of the retreat staff. The first group arrived in July. Women from different places, different ages, different stories. One woman had been pushed out of a house she helped pay for. Another discovered her husband had used her inheritance for business debt. Another had been told by adult children that her home was too large for her alone. Another simply wanted to sit somewhere safe and remember her own name. On the first night, I stood on the porch beside Grandma Ruth's rocking chair and told them, "This house once held people who tried to make me a stranger in my own life. Now it holds women learning to come home to themselves." The women cried. So did I. Then we ate stew, rice, cornbread, and peach cobbler under string lights I chose myself. Not for investors, for healing. Years passed. The lake house became more itself than it had ever been. Not quieter exactly, fuller, but full in the right way. Laughter that asked permission. Tears that did not manipulate. Women reading on the porch. Legal folders open on the dining table. Coffee at sunrise. Swimming lessons for women who had always feared deep water. Bonfires where people wrote old names for pain on paper and released them into flame. Nothing unsafe, nothing dramatic, just symbolic, just enough to say, I am not carrying this home. Adrian eventually remarried someone else, not Cassandra. Cassandra married a hotel heir 2 years later, according to an article someone sent me and I did not finish reading. Patricia wrote me one letter after the divorce. I almost threw it away, then read it. Naomi, I am sorry for treating Ruth's house like my son's stage. I raised Adrian to believe his importance should make room for itself anywhere. That was wrong. You were right to lock the door. That was the closest Patricia ever came to accountability. I did not reply. Some letters are endpoints, not conversations. One autumn, Marcus, my brother, visited the lake house for the first time since everything happened. He came with Brianna for a family lunch. Before arriving, he texted, "May I come to the lake house with Brianna this Saturday?" May I? That mattered. He brought flowers for Grandma Ruth's photo and a toolbox to fix a loose porch step. He asked before touching anything. Grace whispered, "Look at that. Men can be trained by gates." I told her to behave. She did not. After lunch, Marcus stood by the lake and said, "I understand why you fought for this place." I smiled faintly. I didn't fight for the place only. For the right to decide who gets in. Yes. He nodded. That's bigger. Yes. My mother came the following year. She walked through slowly, touching nothing. When she saw Grandma Ruth's rocking chair back in its rightful place, she cried. She would have hated what Adrian did. Yes. And she would have loved what you made from it. That made me cry too. We sat on the porch together. For once, nobody asked me for anything. The lake moved softly under morning light. My mother said, "Do you ever feel lonely here?" I thought about it. Then said, "Sometimes. But lonely in peace is different from crowded in disrespect." She nodded slowly. I understand. Maybe she did. Maybe not fully. But she did not argue. That was enough. My husband said, "You're not welcome here anymore." So I locked him out of my lake house. People love that part. They love the security call, the gate code, the patrol car, the investors leaving with their wine glasses unfinished. Cassandra's face when the deed came out. Adrian learning that saying "our" does not change public records. I understand. It is satisfying. But the deeper lesson is not about a dramatic lockout. It is about recognizing when someone has lived inside your kindness so long they mistake it for ownership. Adrian did not start by telling me to leave. He started by saying our weekend, our retreat, our guests, our plans, our future, our house. Little words, small shifts, quiet erasures. Then one day, he stood in my grandmother's doorway and said the big thing his small actions had been building toward. "You're not welcome here anymore. If you are listening and someone is making you feel like a guest in your own life, pay attention. If they move your things without asking, pay attention. If they invite people into your peace without permission, pay attention. If they call your boundaries territorial, pay attention. If they say ours only when the asset is yours, pay attention. If they tell you not to involve lawyers because it is family or marriage, pay attention. Love does not need confusion to survive. Respect does not fear a deed. And real partnership does not require you to surrender the last key you kept for yourself. Protect your home. Not only the building, your mind, your body, your money, your memories, your peace, your grandmother's chair, your morning silence, your right to say who enters and who leaves. Do not be ashamed of locks. A lock is not always rejection. Sometimes it is a boundary made visible. Sometimes it is the first honest sentence after years of being talked over. Sometimes it is how a woman tells her own life, "I am back now." Today, the lake house still stands at 17 Willow Lake Road. The shutters are blue again. The porch step no longer creaks. Grandma Ruth's rocking chair faces the water. The dock has been repaired. The study is mine. The kitchen smells like cornbread on Saturdays. Women come there to rest, learn, cry, laugh, and remember they are not strangers in their own stories. At the entrance, beside the key hooks, there is a framed line from Grandma Ruth's letter. "Keep a key for yourself, even if you marry a man with a loud voice." Every woman who enters reads it. Some smile, some cry, some touch the frame. I understand all three. My name is Naomi Bennett. My husband told me I was not welcome in my lake house. I locked him out. Then I opened the door for every woman who needed to remember that being pushed out by the wrong person can become the beginning of coming home to yourself.